Hello, and welcome once again to another exciting story of our favorite Disney princesses on this special week of World Princess Week. I am your lovely host, Mrs. Disney, and we have a special guest here with us. This is Prince Disney. He's one of my sidekicks. No, I'm kidding. He's really my son. He's going to be joining us as we are going to be reading our next princess, Cinderella. We ready? Now remember, I will be asking at the end of the story. I will be asking you a question, and if you want to, and to answer my question, please comment below. Thank you. Cinderella is warm and sincere with everyone she meets, whether it's the smallest mouse or the king himself. She treats everyone with equal respect. In spite of the harsh treatment she receives from her stepfamily, Cinderella remains a kind, loving girl. While she makes the best of her situation, she continues to dream of a better life and believes there is good in everyone. A Sweet Salon, written by Aubrey Andrus and illustrated by Alina Chow. Sweep the floors, polish the silverware, fluff the pillows, hem the dresses. Cinderella's morning was filled with chores as usual, but she couldn't stop smiling as she worked. Her stepmother, Lady Tremaine, was hosting a saloon at her home that afternoon. A saloon was a special monthly event where Lady Tremaine invited the most gifted women in the kingdom to the chateau to share their talents. Cinderella loved humming along to their beautiful musical performances, gasping at their dramatic readings, and swooning over sing-song poetry. Cinderella didn't even mind serving tea and finger sandwiches while she got to watch some such fascinating performances. Cinderella had been so inspired by these talented women that she had written and memorized a poem of her own. She dreamed of one day performing it aloud, hopefully. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, that's you, Prince Disney. Hopefully at that day's saloon. All morning, she'd been mustering up enough courage to ask her stepmother. She was just waiting for the right opportunity. As she swept the hallway floor, Cinderella began practicing her poem. Starlight, moonlight. This calls for a duel, Drizella yelled from the music room down the hall. Drizella and Anastasia were Cinderella's stepsisters. They were practicing a scene from a play they would be performing at the saloon. Drizella's voice sounded hoarse from reciting her lines so many times. Yeah. Not on my watch, Anastasia shouted. Stop! I need more emotion, Anastasia, Lady Tremaine demanded. How am I to believe this scene if I can't sense what your character is feeling? Do it again. I can't do this many more times, Mother, Drizella complained. My throat hurts. Lady Tremaine rolled her eyes. From the top. Oh, you're leaving? Okay. From the top, girls. Drizella cleared her throat. This calls for... She stopped and wrapped a hand around her neck. My throat was all she managed to say before breaking into a coughing fit. I said from the top, Drizella, Lady Tremaine demanded. This calls for... Drizella tried before having another cough attack. Lady Tremaine threw her hands in the air. All the ladies will be watching your performance and judging you, judging all of us, she said to her daughters. Go to your rooms and rest up. I'm expecting an excellent performance from you this afternoon. Drizella and Anastasia started marching out of the music room just as Cinderella walked past them dreamily. The stepsisters shared a suspicious look. What was Cinderella smiling about? They stepped into the hallway and eavesdropped as Cinderella approached Lady Tremaine. "Stepmother, I wrote a poem I'd like to perform at the saloon today," Cinderella said. "Is that so?" Lady Tremaine asked. "I've been practicing very hard, and—" "Let's hear it," Lady Tremaine said. "Starlight, moonlight," Cinderella recited the poem perfectly for her stepmother. Her voice was clear and strong. She didn't forget a single word, and the poem was beautiful. Anastasia and Drizella huffed in disbelief. They'd had no idea Cinderella was so good at reciting poetry, and they didn't like it. Lady Tremaine looked down her nose at Cinderella. "If all of your chores are done, if the tea service is complete, and if there is time at the end, I might allow you to read one poem." Cinderella was shocked, and her stepsisters even more so. Before Cinderella could see them, Anastasia and Drizella stormed down the hallway toward their bedrooms, stunned that their mother was letting Cinderella get some attention at the day's saloon. "Oh, thank you, stepmother," Cinderella said, trying to mask her excitement. "And make sure you look presentable today," Lady Tremaine added. "No dirty work clothes. Change into your formal serving dress and fix your hair nicely." "Of course, stepmother," Cinderella beamed. "I won't let you down." Cinderella walked down the hallway with an even bigger smile. She was hopeful that her dream would come true this afternoon. But first she had to finish up her chores and take care of Drizella's sore throat. Cinderella ran to the kitchen to fetch a cup of hot water with lemon. That always made Cinderella's throat feel better. Her stepsisters weren't always friendly, but she knew how important this performance was to both Anastasia and Drizella. With any luck, Drizella's throat would heal quickly with some rest and a warm drink. "Oh, what do we have here? We have another guest. Hello, Quinn. Ready to finish the story of Cinderella?" Drizella was pouting, lying under the covers. Anastasia stood, staring at herself in the mirror. She was brushing her hair over and over again while practicing her lines. Cinderella rapped on the door before she stepped inside. "What do you want?" Anastasia asked. "Here," Cinderella said as she walked toward Drizella. "This might help." Drizella grabbed the teacup from Cinderella's hands, then sipped the hot water and lemon slowly. "I hope you feel," Cinderella began to say. "You can leave now," Anastasia said as she pushed Cinderella out the door. "We need to rest our voices for this afternoon's performances. I can't do my scene without Drizella." "Can you believe her?" Anastasia said to Drizella as she shut the door. Drizella was too busy drinking from her tea to answer. "And she thinks she can perform a poem at the saloon today when we might not be able to do our scene? It's not fair." Drizella opened her mouth to interject. What she wanted to say was, "Of course we'll be able to do our scene." But what came out was nothing. She grabbed her throat. She opened her mouth again and whispered, "My voice." And then she started coughing again. "Drizella, speak up!" Anastasia was panic-stricken. "Talk louder!" Drizella shook her head as she continued to cough. "I can't do my scene without you. I'll look ridiculous." Anastasia paced the room. "We must perform today. Everyone is expecting it. We're the ladies of this house." Drizella held up the teacup with a grimace on her face. She pretended to be serving the tea and then pointed toward the door Cinderella had just stepped through. Anastasia gasped. as she realized what Giselle was trying to tell her. Do you think? Cinderella? What did she put in that tea? She stormed toward the door, prepared to charge after Cinderella, but then she stopped. Wait, Anastasia said. She's just jealous of us. She wants to make sure she has time for her stupid little poem. If she tried to ruin our performance, then we're just going to have to ruin hers. Drusilla smiled wickedly in agreement. Cinderella's sweet mouse pals, Perla and Jacques, were taking a post-lunch nap after an adventurous encounter with Lucifer, Lady Tremaine's mischievous cat. They had successfully gathered enough corn kernels. Hi. To feed all the other mice that lived in the chateau. But now they were exhausted. They sank cozily into a basket of soft fabric, scraps in the corner of Cinderella's room. When Cinderella returned after finishing her chores, they'd tell her all about it. The door creaked. Jacques opened one eye, but it wasn't Cinderella. There it is, Anastasia whispered. She was panting after climbing up the long staircase that led to Cinderella's bedroom. She and Drusilla elbowed each other as they entered, the hoops of their fancy dresses barely squeezing through the door. Anastasia quickly grabbed a dress that was hanging from a changing screen, the outfit that Cinderella had set out to wear at the saloon. Drusilla snatched 2 other dresses that were folded in a basket right next to Jacques and Perla. Perla woke Jacques, whose eyes shot open. Perla swiftly covered her friend's mouth so she wouldn't say anything. Jacques quickly realized what was going on. He saw Drusilla grab Cinderella's only clean apron, too. Her clothes! Her clothes! Jacques managed to squeak out despite Perla's best efforts. Luckily, Anastasia and Drusilla had already turned their backs and were heading out the door. As they elbowed their way back out, a purple feather fell out of Drusilla's hair. What are they doing? Where did they go? Jacques asked Perla. They stole Cinderella's nice things. What do we do? Perla asked. I wait. I tell Cinderella as soon as she gets here, Jacques said. You go. You follow them. Okay. Perla ran through a crack in the wall while Jacques retrieved Drusilla's feather. He sat and stared at the door, wishing Cinderella would hurry. Where was she? It was getting late. A little while later, Cinderella ran through the door, quickly closing it behind her while removing her dirty apron. I'm running behind, Cinderella said aloud to herself. Now where is my Cinderella? Cinderella! Jacques jumped up and down and waved the feather. They stole your dress. They took all of your clothes. Who? Cinderella ducked down and picked up Jacques. She studied the purple feather. Yeah. Anastasia, Drusilla. Now why would they? Cinderella trailed off and said, yeah, you want to come up? You want to come up? My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Prince Disney would like to come back up and see Mommy. Cinderella trailed off and set Jacques gently on her vanity before taking a seat. She looked in the mirror. Her dress was dirty. Her hair was frizzled, and she could hear carriages pulling up to the chateau. The guests were already arriving. Lady Tremaine would not allow Cinderella to serve her guests in dirty work clothes. How could she look presentable without the dress that Anastasia and Drusilla had just stolen? Not only would she let Lady Tremaine down, but if Cinderella couldn't attend the saloon, then she definitely couldn't perform her poem. Oh, Jacques, Cinderella said, I was really looking forward to the saloon. This was my chance to speak up and have my voice heard. The message in this poem is important to me. Jacques felt sad for Cinderella. She had worked so hard cleaning. She had worked so hard writing and mesmerizing her poem. She always worked so hard and never got rewarded. Yeah, I know. But he would say anything. But before he could say anything, he heard footsteps charging up the spiral staircase that led to Cinderella's room. The door burst open. "Get up, child. Why are you not dressed?" Lady Tremaine hissed. Anastasia and Drizella fluttered behind her, eager to watch Cinderella get into trouble. "My formal serving dress is missing, stepmother," Cinderella said as she stood. "How could you misplace one of the few dresses you own?" Lady Tremaine looked around the room as Cinderella snickered. Cinderella wiped at a smudge on her dress. "If you just give me some extra time, I'm happy to clean up the dress I'm wearing." "Not a chance," Anastasia scoffed. Lady Tremaine sneered and turned to her daughters. "You two need to greet the guests while I deal with this," she told them. "Repeat after me. Welcome to our chateau." "It's lovely to see you." "Welcome to our chateau," Anastasia repeated, but when Drizella opened her mouth, only the faintest whisper came out. "Drizella, speak up," Lady Tremaine said. Drizella opened her mouth. Nothing came out. "You've lost your voice?" Lady Tremaine threw her hands up in the air. "Why didn't you tell me?" She glared at Anastasia. "Mother, Anastasia started, but Lady Tremaine wasn't listening. She paced the room, looking from Cinderella to Drizella once and back again. "Drizella, out of your dress. Give it to Cinderella. And Cinderella, give your work dress to Drizella." Drizella's mouth dropped open. "But Mother," Anastasia yelled, "you can't expect Drizella to attend the saloon wearing that old thing." Without a voice, Drizella isn't going to the saloon at all. "Drizella, you need rest. Head straight to your room once you've changed. Anastasia, you'll perform both parts in your play now." Anastasia and Drizella looked at each other with wide eyes. Their plan had backfired. Stealing Cinderella's clothes had not helped them at all. In fact, it had made things worse. Much worse. Anastasia couldn't perform both parts. She could barely perform her own lines. And now Drizella wouldn't even be able to attend. Yeah. Meanwhile, Cinderella got to wear a beautiful dress and go to the saloon. And possibly even perform her poem. "But Mother, I can't do both roles," Anastasia cried. "You don't have a choice. I expect you and Cinderella in the saloon in 5 minutes." Lady Tremaine said, starting toward the door. "And Anastasia, fix your hair." Anastasia reached for her head and felt that her feather was missing. "Looking for this?" Cinderella said, handing over the purple feather. "It ended up in my room somehow." Anastasia's eyes grew wide as she grabbed the feather. Then she quickly turned around and followed her mother down the stairs. Drizella sneered as she changed out of her dress and handed it to Cinderella. "The next time you and Anastasia want to borrow my dresses, just ask," Cinderella said to Drizella. Of course she knew that her stepmothers hadn't really borrowed the dresses. They had stolen them to hurt her. "But I do expect them to be returned to me after the saloon." Drizella couldn't say anything, so she slipped into Cinderella's work dress and disappeared down the stairs in a huff. Cinderella looked at herself in the mirror. She had always admired Drizella's green gown, but never dreamed she'd have a chance to wear it. But she couldn't dwell on that. She quickly brushed her hair and pinned it up. She needed to get downstairs to prepare the tea for the guests. She would only be able to perform her poem at the saloon if it started on time. Good luck, Cinderella, Jacques said. Perla and I will find your missing clothes. I'll go help her now. Thank you, Jacques. You're a good friend, Cinderella said as she shut the door and hurried down the steps. The ladies of the kingdom had already taken seats in the padded chairs and couches arranged around the music room. Cinderella carefully delivered tea while the guests took turns performing. One woman played a happy melody on the flute. As Cinderella served the finger sandwiches, another guest read an excerpt from an adventure story that made Cinderella's heart flutter. The next woman sang a sweet lullaby while Cinderella cleaned up the plates. While she refilled tea, she overheard her fascinating conversations about literature and new inventions from faraway places. There was so much for her to learn. Finally, as she began serving cake and cookies, Lady Tremaine stepped to the front of the room. Thank you all for attending. It's getting late. The last of the performance will be my daughter Anastasia. Cinderella watched with a heavy heart. As Anastasia scurried to the front of the room, Lady Tremaine's promise had been that Cinderella could perform if and only if there was time. And there wasn't enough time after all. Today was not the day that she would be able to recite her poem. At least she'd gotten to attend the saloon, but it was a small consolation considering all the effort she had put in. Anastasia looked around. Today I will be, performing a scene, she stammered nervously. She fidgeted with her dress as she tried to remember Drizella's first line. She took a deep breath. This calls for a duel, she shouted, with her right arm pointed toward where Drizella should have been standing. Then she jumped to her right and stuck up her left arm. Not on my watch, she yelled a little too loudly. Someone in the front row started giggling, and a few others joined in. Anastasia jumped to her left and stuck up her right arm again. I said stand back! Now the audience's giggles had turned into loud belly laughs. Anastasia turned bright red. She couldn't believe everyone thought her dramatic play was funny. Lady Tremaine backed into the corner of the room, unsure how to gracefully stop the play without embarrassing her daughter even more. Cinderella watched as Anastasia stumbled through a few more lines and jumped from side to side. She had listened to her stepsisters rehearse this play repeatedly over the past few weeks. She had it memorized. She set her tray down on a table and charged towards the front of the room. I will never stand down, Cinderella projected Drizella's line toward the audience, then turned toward Anastasia. I will always stand up for what I believe in, no matter what it takes. The laughing stopped. All the women of the kingdom were enchanted by Cinderella's performance. Anastasia looked stunned, but continued with her lines. As the scene continued, Cinderella tried not to make eye contact with Lady Tremaine. She didn't know whether her stepmother would be relieved or furious. When Cinderella and Anastasia took a bow, the audience clapped and cheered. Encore! Encore! They cried. Lady Tremaine quieted the audience. I'm so pleased that you enjoyed the performance by my lovely daughter, Anastasia, and my stepdaughter, Cinderella, Lady Tremaine said. If you insist, Cinderella has one more performance for us today. Cinderella's breath caught in her chest. She looked to Lady Tremaine, who nodded sharply to get on with it before she and Anastasia took a seat. Cinderella took a deep breath and began. Starlight, moonlight, sunrise, Sunset. Yeah. Each day is a new beginning. The bad ones we can forget. Here we go, Prince Disney. Look for sun, not for rain. Look for joy, not pain. Not for pain. You laughing. Lady Tremaine glanced around as Cinderella continued. The audience was captivated by the poem. As Cinderella recited the last line, Lady Tremaine started to stand. But to her surprise, Cinderella continued. It seemed as if she was making up stanzas right on the spot. Hands are for helping, not for harming. Speaking one's mind should not be alarming. You can't steal joy from one who strongly stands. With hearts wide open, happiness is in our hands. The audience burst into applause as she curtsied. Cinderella saw two ladies. Yeah? Here we go. As she curtsied, Cinderella saw two ladies in the front row wipe tears from their eyes. She was proud of herself for speaking her mind and for standing up for herself when her stepmothers had tried to keep her down, and for being brave enough to ask Lady Tremaine for exactly what she wanted. She smiled at everyone, moved by their support. Cinderella turned to Anastasia as the ladies began exiting the music room. Let's go check in on Drusilla, she said. Anastasia nodded sheepishly. They found Drusilla in her room, sulking in bed. She had changed into a nightgown and left Cinderella's dirty work dress in a pile on a chair, on top of Cinderella's missing dresses and clean apron. My clothes, Cinderella said. Remove these dirty rags from this room at once, Anastasia ordered. I can't imagine how they got here. You need to take better care of your things. As Anastasia reached for the pile, Jacques and Perla came crawling out of a dress sleeve. Hick! Mice! She screamed, chucking the clothes at Cinderella. Cinderella caught the pile, making sure Jacques and Perla were safely tucked away in the sleeve. She considered confronting her stepsisters about stealing her clothes. But as she watched Drusilla pouting over missing her performance and Anastasia shuddering from her encounter with the mice, she figured they had already learned their lesson. So instead, she said, Nice job today, Anastasia, and thank you, Drusilla, for letting me borrow your dress. I'll return it after I clean it. Then she walked out of the room with her head held high. Once she was in the hallway, she unfolded the dress sleeve and coaxed her mouse friends out. Come here, you two. Are you all right? Of course, Cinderella, Jacques said. Perla held up the dress sleeve. We found your missing clothes. Cinderella chuckled. Thank you for being so brave, Perla. Cinderella, Lady Tremaine called down the hall. She had just said goodbye to the last guest. Cinderella turned around, worried about what her stepmother had to say. She wouldn't be surprised if she was angry at her for performing alongside Anastasia, but it had been worth it. The ladies want to hear another poem from you during next month's Salon, Lady Tremaine said flatly, so be prepared. Yes, stepmother, Cinderella said. I promise I won't let you down. Lady Tremaine walked away. You did it, Cinderella, Jacques said to Cinderella. We knew you could, Perla added. Cinderella pulled a leftover cookie out of the pocket of Drusilla's dress and handed it to the little mice. Good things come to those who are kind, Cinderella said as she smiled at her mouse friends. I certainly know that to be true. Wasn't that a lovely story and a wonderful act of courage and kindness from Cinderella? I hope you enjoyed your story. And now, If I may, I have a question for you. Well, apparently Prince Disney does too. When has your kindness helped... Oh. Maybe Prince Disney would like to join us. Prince Disney, maybe you would like to ask your question? When has kindness helped someone? When has your kindness helped someone?